wait till the world ends.
How about that intro? Didn't like it? Well, you're not the only one. Hey, it's still a work in progress. Just a few years ago, when I started making my first videos, I was using basically a trash computer that I think I bought from somebody off a Craigslist for $50. All stock microphone from the computer. That's back when Microsoft had their own little standard video editor that came with Windows. Horrible, horrible stuff. I did my best. And, I've moved all the way up to shooting a podcast in my 14-year-old daughter's dirty room. There's room for improvement all the way around. So if you got any ideas, go ahead and drop them in the comment section down there. And we'll try it out. And if it doesn't work, we can always go back with what didn't work to begin with. So a lot of stuff has happened. A lot of crazy stuff. More and more crazy stuff is going to happen. I'm working on my favorite kind of video to make. I'm working on one right now, documentary style, and it's about this age of sorrows. We're living in the age of sorrows. I'm going to make the argument that the four horsemen of the apocalypse are already out and active in our world. Conquest since 2014. 2014, 2015, the tetrad of that those Jewish feast days. Those the first four seals of the book of Revelation, or the book in Revelation opening, in my humble opinion. And I'll present you as many of the facts as I can, and that's why food companies are blowing up all over the place. There is going to be a food shortage. There kind of has been droughts and famines and pestilences. Pestilences are diseases, if you didn't know. Diseases and droughts and famines and there's been some crazy diseases in the last 5 years. Have there? A few. People are still wearing masks at Walmart. People still have. I got my COVID-19 shot on their Facebook, do they? Some monkeypox. War. Anybody know of any wars going on? Any wars and rumors of nuclear missiles being shot at the greatest, strongest nation in the world? Anybody hear that? Anything like that? I don't know. Maybe something like that's going on. But I'll take the tinfoil hat off for a little bit and talk about some more controversial topics. So we're hearing a lot about gun control right now. Gun control. And while I am very against it, and will give you some reasons eventually, hopefully I'll get there in this video, I will tell you about some things that kind of trouble me. Because everything you hear about gun control right now is meant to give you that knee-jerk reaction. Oh, I gotta do it now. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, okay, I'll press the button. You don't think about the implications of it. They're doubling down. I'm talking about the establishment media, because I don't even know if I can say all the stuff that I want to say on here without it getting taken down. I already have a community guideline strike on something that I posted on here in a video that had a watermark or whatever on it, and I posted the same thing after my strike. I appealed it, and they said no, you spread misinformation. So I showed the same thing. It was a video of something that actually happened in Ukraine. I showed the same video with that cropped, and that's fine. That's some crazy censorship Orwellian stuff. I think right now Aldous Huxley and George Orwell, I just feel like they're probably in their own time looking into the future, into our time right now, and taking notes. So one thing that troubles me about this, because it is all about emotions. It's about getting your emotions. It's not about presenting you, having rational discourse and presenting you with facts. And we can't just have conversations anymore. That time is over. There's a meme that I seen that said, who would have thought At this time we thought we'd have flying cars, but we peaked in the 80s or 90s as a nation. I think that's pretty fair to say. 80s and 90s, growing up in the 80s and 90s, I mean, we got to a place where we had kind of an I don't want to say multiculturalism, because when I think what they think with multiculturalism, what they're trying to push is having different separate cultures all existing in the same place, but never, separate but equal. That's something that's came out of. I'm not going to get into that. Separate but equal cultures. In the 70s and 80s, we had all these cultures, all these different people from different countries that have some that were just coming into America, some that had like the Chinese and the Hispanics that have been here for a while, the black people. All their culture was intermingling into an American culture where the Japanese, the kids wanted to wear. When I was growing up, everybody wanted to wear. That was a cool thing to do. Put a karate band on your head, or pull one of your legs up off. One of your pant legs up, and so we had all these different aspects, and we didn't call it cultural appropriation. It was cultural appreciation. It was that melting pot idea. And yeah, America, you can look back in our past and pick, you can cherry pick all the bad stuff out and forget about all the good stuff America has stood for. The very idea of America, freedom and the acknowledging that men have unalienable rights that are endowed by our Creator, that we all deserve the dignity of being made in the image of God. And you can make the argument that America didn't always live up to that principle, and we excluded some people. But that idea is what drove America, and and it's also important to note that didn't really exist in the world for thousands and thousands and thousands of years of human history. We're coming to this point where the American idea starts to bring that out. And there's you got the Enlightenment movement of France, that and you got the French Revolution, and that was a great testament to secular humanism. I mean, how many people were slaughtered? How many periods of time from those secular movements, those anti-religious movements, have a period of their revolution called the Reign of Terror. France, Russia, China. Anyways, I digress. America. Judeo-Christian values of America. Well, not all the founding fathers were Christians. Well, they sure weren't atheists. Well, Benjamin Franklin was an atheist. No, Benjamin Franklin wasn't an atheist. I mean, you could call him, a deist. He believed in a God. He believed in a creator. They believed that we were created with unalienable rights. And I'm not saying that there isn't an atheist in there. I honestly don't know. Out of all the from the Declaration of Independence to the First Continental Congress, I don't know how many people involved. I don't know. I know that we were built on Judeo-Christian values of life, liberty, justice, freedom. Anyways, I got way off a topic there. I don't even know where I started when I was going with that. I wish I had a rewind button somewhere on here. I'll just keep on moving forward and see if I come back to it. America, 80s and 90s. We could talk about the 80s and 90s. All right. I may be skipping some stuff and leaving some stuff out, but I've been seeing this sentiment to get this knee-jerk reaction that the school shootings are happening, but saying thoughts and prayers isn't enough. You got to do something. What are you doing? And we are doing something. We are. And I'll get to that in a second. I was talking about how manipulative the media is, because they post stuff when they talk about. Now you're seeing a lot more about shootings. I don't know if there's too many more shootings that are normal, but they'll say this marks the 233rd shooting of the year. There's so many shootings. We've got to do something about guns. They don't give you any context whatsoever. No context. What does that mean, 233rd shooting of the year? That sounds like a holiday in Detroit, right? That sounds like the Memorial Day weekend. 233 shootings. How many of those shootings are criminals shooting criminals? Or better yet, how many of those shootings are criminals shooting law-abiding citizens? Innocent victims? And I'd also like to know how many shootings have been prevented by law-abiding citizens being armed. And if that number is 1 out of every 100, I'd say that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm not so it should be better, but it is pretty good, because even one, because life is precious, every life matters. If even one person saved themselves or their family from an evil criminal trying to kill them by being armed, then there's 99 people that unfortunately were shot and killed by criminals. But at least one, you do have the option to save yourself. You do have the option to protect yourself. And so you can't solve this by reducing the number of guns. You can't solve this by taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. Of course, I'm trying to get away from all the cliches. If you make guns illegal, the only people that will have them are criminals. And I guess that's true. It's kind of like I've said before. If you make the Bible illegal, you make it illegal to be a Christian, then I'll be a criminal. But it's more than that. It is the state of our society, and it is our culture. We need a culture. America should have a culture of being decent, of respecting individual life. We should have a culture of recognizing all the great things that make up our culture, but not excluding people and saying, no, you can't have that culture. That's our culture. And I'm not saying that some of your heritage is due. I mean, it belongs to you, and nobody should particularly, parody it or whatever. But we're all Americans, and it doesn't matter if you're white or black or Asian or Native American. It doesn't matter. If you come to America, we should have an American culture, and that culture, nobody should be forced into religion. But we have to. Our culture is based on Judeo-Christian values, and that's why it worked so good for so long. And that's why, at one point, kids having access to firearms wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't because firearms are more dangerous now. In fact, a lot of the firearms of the bygone eras are far more dangerous. The calibers are just as dangerous as, far more dangerous than 5.56 or an AR-15. The rate of fire is basically the same, can do a lot more damage. It wasn't the access. It was until you have a society where it's not where you're until society, our culture reaches a point to where biological giant testosterone-filled men aren't beating women on the field of their own, or even literally beating them in like MMA matches, in the only sports they can compete in, making it, for one thing, making a farce of what being a woman is. There's a new show out, or a movie out, that's being highly censored. Nobody wants you to see it, called What is a Woman? But until partial birth abortion isn't not only accepted in our society as health care, partial birth abortions. My first daughter was born a month early. She's still every bit a baby. She's 14 years old now, and older than her could be delivered and killed in the process of birth. It's and called healthcare, not called killing another living human being that deserves every bit of respect and dignity of a human being. Until grown men that dress up like women can't go into schools and talk to little children as if there's nothing sexual about that, because there's a book called Irreversible Damage that I talk about all the time, and it's written by a very leftist woman who's very big friend of the LGBT community. I recommend everybody read it. Still points out the insanity of having double mastectomies at the age of 13 because you made a decision that because all this stuff's being pushed and all these people are accepting you at the time that you're looking for acceptance the most, and you're a 13-year-old and making stupid decisions, then you permanently mutilate your body and have to live with that for the rest of your life because of bad culture and bad ideology. Because even down to the point of hormone blockers, your body has certain benchmarks that your development has to make. And if it misses those, it will never develop right. You won't develop the way you're supposed to. And that, you're talking about a big, a large mental health problem in the future for a lot of the people who have been allowed and facilitated by our culture, by our society, by our schools, without even the parents' knowledge. Until that is not an attribute of our society and culture, you're going to have evil things like this going on. And school shootings, there's a movie, a lot of people won't watch it probably because it's put out by the Daily Wire. It's called Run, Hide, Fight. It's got Thomas Jane in it. Thomas Jane's awesome actor. I don't know about him personally. I think that he took a very big risk on his career by being in that movie. But that movie identifies, I guess, kind of spoiler alert here, that movie identifies 4 big reasons for school shooters in one incident. It shows the sociopath that wants notoriety. He's a psycho. He wants the attention. There's somebody that just wants belonging. He's the main guy has under his psychological control. He's manipulated her. She wants to belong. She wants to be, and kind of like the Manson murder type thing. There's somebody who is bullied, and they point out that they do a good job of pointing out the different ways he could look at life and not shoot children. Then they have the person who has a legitimate psychological condition. He's schizophrenic. He's hearing voices, and the main guy takes advantage of that. What they didn't include is religion, because some mass shootings are caused by religion, not by Christians who are getting such. I'm telling you, if you identify as a Christian, first of all, if you identify as a Christian, you might have that wrong. I don't know if I'll be able to get into this at some point in this video, but you still identify as a Christian. And if you really are a Christian, don't look for things to get better. Don't look for things to get better. It's not supposed to get better. We're at the end of the age. God says they hated me, they're going to hate you. And it's just going to get worse to the point where those who offer you up to be killed will think that they're doing the will of God. So, the Oregon shooter, he went in, another example of how the media manipulates. He goes in, he kills a bunch of people in the college, and they say, well, there are some reports of that he was singling out Christians, but he did ask some people if they're Christians, but no matter what they answered, he shot them anyways. Well, there's a big difference, mainstream media. If they said, I'm a Christian, he shot him in the brains. If they said, I'm not a Christian, he didn't. He shot him in a non-life-threatening area. That's a big difference. He was targeting and killing Christians, and then they were caught artificially lightening him so he didn't look too dark, so he could fit their narrative better. This latest shooting, comes from a Hispanic transgender boy that I assume was living with his grandparents, and I mean, we've got the problems, the failures of our society written all over this from the security of our schools, because people are crazier nowadays, because our culture, because of our the schools need to be more secure, to the point of what kind of psychological road did this guy go down? Looks like he was failed every step of the way. And the number one solution I will give to this is respect marriage. Make marriage something that means something again. Because marriage in our society doesn't mean jack crap. It doesn't. It's easy to get married, easy to get divorced. There's no stigma against divorce, and I'm not going to say, that you're just a big sinner if you get divorced and it's evil and you shouldn't. There's that's a very it's a very nuanced topic about marriage and divorce in the Bible. There is stipulations for divorce. A lot of people don't even understand what Jesus meant when he said that because of your hard hearts, Moses suffered you to give your wives certificates of divorce. And just take a step aside here and explain that, because that was all about protecting women. If you didn't know that, because you don't know anything about the Old Testament, because nobody reads the Old Testament anymore. Nobody thinks they need to. So in the Old Testament, these guys were like, hey, we just want to be happy. The same thing that's going on today. We'll just be happier with someone else. Nothing too bad against, she just doesn't get me. I'll just be happier. She'd be happier. We'd all be happier. So he allowed, them to get divorced. But the stipulation is the divorce means that they can divorce their wife and go and find another wife. And if they're not happy with that wife, they can't divorce her and come back to this one. It protects that wife. She's free of that deadbeat that doesn't want anything to do with her anymore, right? So marriage, first of all, just accepting that your children, if you have children, they deserve the best possible start in life, the best possible examples in life, and that's to be to have a mother and a father that are married, that have a bond of contract that says we have made oaths to each other before God that we will stay together, that we will work things out. Our children deserve that. And there are exceptions. Exceptions aren't the rule. Exceptions prove the rule. You see somebody, you see a guy that's really short, and okay, what is it that I can't remember who said that? It might be Jordan Peterson, but here's an exception to the rule. Tom Cruise is shorter than Katie Holmes. Therefore, all men are shorter than women. Well, we know that's not true, because the general rule is most men are taller than women. There are exceptions. That's an exception to the rule. So anyways, marriage, respect it, make it a thing. Don't, we're not a community of people that do stuff for a while together and then go off and do it with other people. There's a meme that shows a soccer game or something, and you got the kid, and then on one side he's got a mom, the other side's got dad, and it says stepmom, stepdad, and it says, hey, if that happens, that's great that it gets worked out that way, but that should not be the standard. That should be the exception to the rule, not the rule. We should have a country that values marriage, that gives our children the best possible opportunities in life and puts them first. And so many, when you get married, and then so many divorces, I've heard, just like I said, well, I just have to be happy. God never said that you're going to be just so happy in life. He never said that things weren't going to be hard. He said, I'll be there with you through it all. As much as is possible on your part, do it. If a woman's with a guy that beats her, of course you should leave, right? But if you guys just are having a hard time getting together, it should be. I've heard so many people, I always say so many, I mean, maybe, hey, if it's friends of mine and there's two of them that said this, then that's a lot of people relative to how many friends I have. So they say we're only together because we're Christians. Well, that's great. I think that's great because it's hard to stay together. It's hard to keep a marriage together. And if it's God that's keeping you together, hey, maybe you'll work some stuff out. Maybe that bond between you are going to force you to give up some parts of yourself that you don't want to, but now you're one flesh with your wife. That's how marriage is described in the Bible. So you have to. Maybe it makes you a better person. Maybe you think you could have been better without your wife. But hey, this is especially if you have children. This is your I don't want to cross to bear. It's your cross to bear. If you want to look at it that way, go ahead and look at it that way. But if you are forced to stay together and hash things out because of a bond, whether it be a document that keeps you from pulling all your stuff apart, or God, the glue, then sometimes that forces those rough edges to rub against each other. And then many years down the road, there's a reason they call it the 7-year itch, when marriages have their rough time, because you don't do it overnight. You have that big infatuation honeymoon phase, and then you start to see all the stuff wrong with your partner, and then you got to hash the things out, the problems between you. We need to put emphasis on marriage and have nuclear families be the normal thing in our society, in our culture. That's what gets us back on the track. That's what keeps kids from going in and killing kids. That's what keeps all these mental health. We've got all these drug overdoses like nobody's ever seen before in our country. We've got the transgender movement. It's all a movement against the Judeo-Christian values of our country and the laws, the natural laws that God put in place. God, from the beginning of time, God made them both man and male and female, and for this reason, a man leaves his wife or leaves his family and cleaves to his wife, and they have kids, and the kids are protected in this little pocket of this little shield of their strong bond of their mother and father who are married, and so you got the stepmom and the stepdad. If it works, if it happens, that should be the exception. It should be the exception. And if it does happen, then that exception should hopefully look like that everybody's amicable. But then you've got a lot of confusion. You've got one kid that was born by the man and the husband and the wife, and now they're split up, and now they have other kids. And now, hey, did they love their own kids more than me? I know the stepdad probably loves his child more than, and now I have to go between this house, and it gets confusing, and the best possible thing is children, husband and wife, God. So I didn't get into half of what I wanted to get into. This is very controversial stuff, I guess. Is it controversial to say marriage should mean something? Anyways, until next time, this is can't wait till the world ends.